Jack, I'm not seeing anything here on the El Paso. I'm just waiting for the presenter to start the meeting.
What is your webinar ID? Does it show? Instead, I'm showing 70-some folks on the webinar. Hopefully, they're seeing the agenda screen. Anybody?
Yeah, I'm calling from Seattle. I don't see anything other than just waiting for organizer as well.
Waiting for organizer. Okay.
I'm in Little Rock, and I see the webinar intro.
I'm calling from Seattle, and I see it fine.
You see
but there was that new news this morning.
You see the agenda on your screen?
Yes, and it's because there was a message saying that, well, part of the thing had changed. Right, that might have been communication only.
Right, yeah, just the phone line changed. So hopefully the webinar should be still good for all.
It shows up on my screen.
Yeah, I wonder if we're running into some kind of bandwidth issues in certain places. Jayme, you good out there?
Yeah, I can see your screen fine.
Yeah, we'll have to probably...
Hey Jack, this is Jay.
Yeah?
This is JJD. I'll read you the webinar ID I'm using just to see if it's the same as yours. Is 1110159115. Is that the right one?
No, I'm showing it starts off as a 128.
Okay, I think that may be the problem. So if you, I think, have everybody go to webinar and join a meeting or join a webinar, and then if you could read off those, read off your 9-digit one.
Okay, let me try that. Yeah, I guess if they're not on the webinar, let's see here. Well, the webinar ID I have is 128-761-563 for those on the phone that don't have that ID. Sorry about that. I'm not sure where that would have come from, unless it made a new ID based on the tweak.
Thank you so much. If you want to do the, I know you have to speak.
All right, I'm showing 81 folks on there, so let's go ahead and move on, and we'll hope the others can catch up. Again, that webinar ID is 128-761-563 for those that may not have that number. All right, so the agenda for today is we're going to probably have a pretty full hour. Jayme's going to go ahead first. Jayme is the senior service hydrologist out there in WFO Weather Forecast Office, Los Angeles. And because he is in Los Angeles, he is a rock star like all people in Los Angeles. And he is, if you can see on the agenda here, I've linked his name. He's an award-winning story map maker for the National Weather Service. He was recognized at last summer's Esri International Users Conference with a Special Achievement Award for his efforts. So he's a wonderful speaker here and knows this stuff backward and forward for as much as until it changes, which is always changing. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Jayme here and give him controls, and we'll move through his material, okay?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we got it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to present probably for about 30 minutes today, and I'm going to start off with a little bit of background about what story maps are. Then I'm going to show some samples of some story maps that I've done, and give you some ideas about how we could use story maps in the Weather Service. And then I'm going to go into some slides that talk about some of the steps about how to create story maps, and then I'll end up with some where you find a bunch of information to get you started. So I am not going to be using a PowerPoint today. What you're seeing on the screen is actually a story map. So I'm going to be presenting with one of my story maps. Okay, so we're going to start off with, what are story maps? Story maps are, traditionally in our GIS, we've worked at our desktop, and we've had this desktop software, and we can make maps. Story maps, as we've created this new way to integrate your mapping, those maps you make on your desktop, with text and videos and images, to put it all together into this little app that you becomes a web URL that you share with people and they can view it. But it allows you to put it all together and tell this story in combination with your map.
Got plenty of Mountain Dew and granola bar.
So it sounds like we have if everyone could mute their lines, that'd be great. We're hearing a little bit of background noise. So story maps, they're not designed to do your heavy lifting in GIS, but you can do some analysis within them if you want. They're designed for like a general non-technical audience, and they're accessible to anyone that has access to the internet. So so that was a quick intro. I'm going to show you some samples of them, and then we'll go into how you create these. So this particular story map that I'm showing on the screen right now is called, the template is called the Storymap Journal. And it's one of my favorites. I found that it's a good way, just the way it's set up and the way that you present information is really set up well to tell a nice story. So you start off with, from the left-hand side of the screen here, I've got some text, and you can embed images in there, you can embed videos, and then on the right-hand side, it's where you can put larger images, or you could web maps, so your mapping, your GIS maps will show up on this side. And this is all configurable, and I'll show you that later. And you could switch these screens so that you could have your text over on the right-hand side and the images on the left, or you could have this text window could be floating on top of here, and you have control over how. So right now I think I have it set for like 30% of the screen is going to be text, and the rest will be images. You can set that to 40% or 50%. It's all configurable. So what you do with these story maps, over on the far left-hand side, there's this home button, and then there's these dots that show the different pages within my story map. So if we scroll down, you can see that I have this text, and this is our El Nino story map. So we put an El Nino story map together for Southern California, for this office in Los Angeles, and then we've had that out there since December, and I've had, I think the last time I looked, it was over 5,000 views or so on this story map so far. And so it's got a bunch of text just about what is El Nino. It's got we put some images up there. The images that I have on the left-hand side, I have them set so that if you click on them, they'll pop out, so that people could pop those out and look at those a little closer. And as you scroll down, just lots of information that we've embedded into the story map. And then as I walk down, you can actually put some links in here. So within your text, you can have links to other pages that are in there. This is a web map that shows up now on the right-hand side. And in this web map, I've got an overview map that you can set up to include. You can include a legend that you can open and close, and you can set that to, by default, to either be open or closed as you're building a story map. And then, so I've got these points on this map. The web maps themselves are interactive. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can pan around on this. But these red dots are our traditional GIS shapefile type layer information that we put on the map. And then if you click on one of these dots, you can set it up so that you can enable these pop-ups. And so when you click on a piece of information that's on your map, you can bring information out. And I've got it set so if I click again, you can see that graph larger. It'll pop it out. So there's lots of things you can do with these story maps. Let me go on to a different sample. This one is a tabbed story map series. And the cool thing about these story maps, you can also embed web pages inside your story map. So in this particular story map, what I was trying to set up was a daily weather briefing using a story map. So I've got this set up so that as you go across these tabs, and the idea would be that, say, managers or anyone coming into the office, they could use this briefing story map to get them up to speed on what's going on. And you can embed any kind of web page you want in here. So I have it starts off with the NWS weather.gov page, so you can see the alerts. And the web page is live, it's active, so you can actually click on this page, and it would go to whatever WFO I just clicked on. So I clicked on Springfield, Missouri. So I've embedded that web page within this story map. So here's a forecast page. I've got a page showing the satellite, the radar. So, and as you go across this tab, it's going to show us more information. But it's really cool, and the cool thing about this is, like if you're using web page links inside of a PowerPoint, when you click those links, it's going to break out. You're going to have to break out your PowerPoint to show stuff. Well, I'm using this story map to use as my PowerPoint. So as I'm going through here, if you've noticed, I haven't had to click out of my story map at all. It's all embedded inside the story map. And then also these web pages are embedded inside my story map, and they're active. Then I can pan around and zoom and click on different things within my story map. So that's another idea for story maps, is to use it as some sort of a briefing tool. And then the other cool thing I think that story maps can be used for in the Weather Service is to do some damage assessment surveys. So we had a tornado, although out here in California we do get tornadoes, but they're generally very weak tornadoes. And this was an EF0 that was out in our area out here on January 6, 2016. So I used a story map, and I quickly put together the story map after we went out, and actually I was the one that went out and did the damage survey. So as I took pictures, I was able to save those pictures, and then I built this little story map. So this one's called a story map tour. And it starts off with this first image. I actually put this together. Let me go back here. So this first image, let me pop that out. I put that together just with PowerPoint, and then I saved it as an image and put it in here. And I'll give you some more detail on how you get images into story maps as we go through this. And then on each one of these slides, you're able to put some text that describes what that image is about, and I was able to embed some links in there so that if people wanted some information about the enhanced Fujita scale, they can click and go get more information on that. And then we made a YouTube video of the radar loop, and so I've embedded that in here. So I made the loop and then uploaded it to our YouTube channel, and then you use the YouTube link to put into your story map. So this is playing that YouTube video. I also did that. So that was the radar reflectivity. I did an image also with the velocity data from the radar. So, and again, if I pop that out, you can see that you can play this video showing the velocity data. So, there's lots of flexibility and lots of information that you can put in these. And then as you go through, so I set this one up so that I have, on the left-hand side, I have the smaller images show up, and then my maps over here on the right. And again, this being a web map, it's interactive. I can zoom in and out. I can move around. And then as I go through these numbered pictures here, I have them set so that they're on the map. And when you get to that picture on the whatever picture, so I select picture 8, number 8 is highlighted there on the map, and then you can pop these images out so people can see them in more detail. So here's another sample. So I think I know we have a damage assessment toolkit already in the Weather Service, but I think these story maps could be a nice complement to those damage assessment toolkits. And once you create these, it's a web URL, that you can share via social media. So you could post them on Facebook or your Twitter account. You can put a link up on your web page. And anyone, once these story maps are made public, they're accessible to anybody that has that link. And I'll have more detail on how to make those public as we go through here again. This was another map journal, a story map journal that I did, where we had a heavy rain event back in December of 2014. Again, I'm telling the story of some weather event that we had, and I put this together just in a couple days and was able to get this up on our webpage fairly quickly after the event. So again, it's got images, there's lots of text that tells the story of what was going on. And on this first page again, I have a video, again from, we made a little YouTube video of the radar, and then you embed that YouTube into the story map. So it's really cool how you can put all this information in here and tell the story of some sort of weather event. And then I have web maps with different information. It's got a burn area. We had this particular event, we had a debris flow at a burn area that's actually just down the road from our office. And so I'm telling the story of the heavy rain that led up to that debris flow. And here's another sample using the map journal again. And again, I'm looking back at a flooding event that we had out here in Southern California back in January of 2005. And I'm using a story map and these web maps to go through and just present the images and present what happened during that flooding event. And here's another sample. This is using a swipe map. So you can have some information with a legend in your story map, and then this can you can pop that out of the way. And then so on the swipe map, what you're doing is comparing two maps, one map versus the second map. So on this particular one, I was doing a drought monitor comparison from June of 2014 to June 2012, so you can compare those maps. And again, it's all interactive, so you zoom in, you can investigate different areas as you zoom in. I've seen these swipe maps used for pre- and post-storm events. So I've seen it used for tornadoes, where you have an aerial image of before the tornado and an aerial image of after the tornado, and you can compare them. I've seen it done with hurricane damage, where you can compare and contrast before and after. And this is something that I've been playing around with recently. And this is a little bit different. I brought in, I made a little web app where I've brought in some weather data. So I've got the radar data on here. I've got some wind barbs. I've got the different hazards that are in effect right now. And I've got all these different layers set to update every 10 minutes. So this map will refresh every 10 minutes. And then what I've done is we've created some web maps of some different data. I'm going to zoom in here to the Los Angeles area as a sample. Okay, so I'm going to click a point on the map here, Los Angeles. So by default, I have it set to do this radius of information, and in this web app, I have it set up so that you can increase that radius that you're looking at, or you can decrease it. But by default, I think I had it set for it's like 20 miles, maybe 20-mile radius. And so using some web maps that are behind the scenes here. So I have it set up. Right now, it's showing me how many small airports are in that circle. And then this one's showing major airports, so this is LAX. And then you can click on this information and get more information about that point that's on the map. I've got it set up for schools. And the reason we were doing this was, so if we have severe weather, we could zoom in on an area where we're having some severe weather, whether it be wind or hail or whatever's going on, and we can identify some different buildings or where people might be, and where those values are at, so that we just have an idea of where we need to focus our efforts. So here's some schools. Here's different hospitals that are within that radius. Major League Baseball stadiums. And then also within this web app, I have it set up so that it's going to pull some demographic information. So this is using the 2010 census. So it's showing me from this point, within this radius, there's 7.9 million people that are in that radius. Then it breaks it down by male and female population, tells me how many housing units are in there. So it's giving me some information to help us make some decisions. And then within this app, you can pull in weather. Unfortunately, it wasn't using weather service information, but I think we can set that up to pull in some weather service weather information too. This was powered by World Weather Online, but I just wanted to show you that there's, you can even do these little web apps like this to help with operations. Okay, so that's, I'm done with the samples. Now I'm going to go to how you go about creating these story maps. The first thing we need to do is you need to get a NOAA ArcGIS Online account. So I know a lot of you have it. If you don't, that's going to be your first step. Is you're going to have to acquire an ArcGIS Online account. Within NOAA and the National Weather Service, we have an enterprise license agreement with Esri that gives us access to desktop software and access to ArcGIS Online. So through that enterprise license agreement, if you don't have an account, it's real simple to just fill out a form, and we can get you an account. And I'll show you, where you go to find the link to access the form to request an account. Once you have an account, then you have access to all these different Storymaps apps and these web maps and these different web apps that are in there that you can start playing with and creating with. So within the Weather Service and the NOAA ArcGIS Online, there are some rules of the road that we need to follow. There's a governance document that the ArcGIS Online team has developed, and I just clicked over to the link. So when you go to this document, there's a bunch of pages that talk to you about generally, what's required when we're using this. When we put together story maps, there's just some general things that we want to do. We want to have good titles, good descriptions. There's the use of some tags that you're going to use to help people find them. I'll go through that. So there is a document that gives you lots of information about that. And we can provide that link to everyone after the webinar so that everyone knows how to find that document. Esri's been really nice. They've created all these different story map templates out there, and then they've set it up so that there's some real easy little builders that you can access to help you, that walks you through building these story maps. So it makes it really, really easy to put these together. I'll show you a link to get to them here in a few slides, but there's different templates that you can pull in and use as is. If you are a coder and you say, I'd really like to add this to that, or it'd be neat if it could do this, well, Esri also allows you to download the code, and then you can get into the code and actually make some changes yourself too. So all the story maps I've built so far, I've built using their builder, and just I've been within their template, and it's all worked out really well for me. And it really, with those builders, so it doesn't require you to be a programmer at all. It's very simple to walk through these and build them. So they have some different apps that are out there. Let me go to the next page. So this is Esri's Storymap webpage, where they have the different templates that are available. So the Storymap tour, I showed you a sample of that. That was my tornado story map that I did. So there was this picture with a web map, and then down below you can walk through these different images as like a little tour of images. The story map journal, that's one. I showed you several samples of that. I really, really like the journal. It's my favorite one, actually. And if you notice next to these, there's this little build button. And when you click the build button, it pops up a little GUI that starts walking you through how to build them. Very simple. The tab layout, I showed you a sample of that one. That was my weather briefing sample. This Storymap series, this bullet layout, that's actually the Storymap template that I'm using to give this presentation. So if you notice, there's these little dots across the top. So that's this template with information inside of it. So that's another really nice one to use. I showed you a sample of the flight map. So again, they're all, there's a build button right next to it. So Esri set it up so that it's very simple to go ahead and build these. And then, of course, if you want to customize them, you can download the code and customize them yourself too. All available on Esri's Storymap webpage under the App tab. Okay, so here's a little quick screenshot of a map journal editing GUI. So it's a little GUI that pops up. You just fill in some information about the title, the content that you want to add. You can add maps, images, videos, or a web page, and it just gives you a little bit of configuration. So they're very simple little GUIs and setup menus. So adding images, that's always been one of the questions that people ask is, how do you add your images? How do you get your images in there? Images, Esri set it up so that you can bring in images. If you have a Flickr account, you can even bring them in from a Facebook account. So I've actually put some images on our office Facebook page and been able to bring them in from there. You can bring them in through a Picasa account, or you can use a URL. So the way I've done images, the majority of what I've done is using a URL. I have, I worked with my webmaster here in our office and our ITO, and we have a directory on our network that when we drop different images into this network directory, it's rsync up to the regional web server. So for my region out here in the west, that's in Salt Lake City. And so it automatically, when I drop them in there, the script runs every 5 minutes, copies those images up to the web server. And once they're on the web server, I can use this URL option to each one of my images. So if anyone, afterwards has any more question about that, I can give you some more detail. But that's what I've used. And then videos, you can bring in. I've showed you some samples. I've put together several YouTube videos, and then once I upload those to our office YouTube account, then you just have this link to that video that you can put in and bring it into your story map. So final configuration. Once you put your story map together, you want to go through and do some metadata. You want to have a good title. You want to have a nice description. You want to have a nice thumbnail. So this little image, you can take a little image and put in there as a thumbnail. And you want to have appropriate tags. And the reason you want to have all this information is people, that's how they're going to search for your story map. So they'll search for it by tags. So there's a little place down here where you fill in a bunch of tags. So you can put story map, or NOAA, National Weather Service, flooding, tornado, whatever that is about. You want to have these keywords that people can find your story map by. And then I'm going to show you how to do some searches, and then show you why it's important to have good thumbnails and descriptions and tags. So that's before you're done with it, you want to make sure you have that all filled in and have it, good images that people are going to attract people's eyes. And then, so once you get your story map created, in the Weather Service, we have a procedure where there's a handful of people that are ArcGIS Online administrators for the Weather Service. And so, one, if someone needs to request an account, then it's one of those National Weather Service admins that is going to respond to that and set up that account. And then two, when you put together some content within your NOAA ArcGIS Online account, you can make your content viewable by the organization. So anyone that's within the NOAA ArcGIS Online can see it, but you can't with your user level that we have to set for you, you're not able to make that public so that anyone in the world can see it. So what we've set up is a procedure where once you get your content together, you'll fill out a form and you'll say, hey, I've got content. I need one of the Weather Service ArcGIS Online admins to review it. And myself and Jack Settlemeyer are two of the admins, and there's a couple others. And we'll review your content and we're going to be reviewing it. I guess, I had mentioned earlier this best practices document. So there's a lot of information in here on the best practices document about what should be included in your story map. And then we're going to look at, just look through it for spelling, make sure there's good thumbnail, good titles, all those things that need to be there are there. We'll do that. And once we approve it, then we're going to make that public, and then that link will be available to anyone in the world. So I wanted to real quickly show you if you're interested in story maps and you haven't worked with them, there's a couple ways where you can look at story maps that other people have put together for some ideas and some inspiration. One of them is in Esri, on their story map page, they have a gallery. And the gallery is not all the story maps that have been created, but it's a subset of the story maps, and they've got some of the what they feel are some of the better samples of story maps. So you can look through their gallery, and then you can search through their gallery. So if you were to search for something like NOAA, with these, this is only searching for story maps within their gallery that use the NOAA tag. So you can go through here and you can find some of these different story maps in there, and then you can click on those and look through those and get some inspiration that way. Now, beyond, and then I want to do one more thing on this gallery page. If you put together a story map and you would like to see it included in Esri's gallery, on this gallery page, there's a Submit Your App button. You can actually submit your story map for consideration for inclusion in this gallery by Esri, so they'll review it, generally give you some feedback on it, and if they like it, then they'll include it in the gallery. So beyond the gallery, if you want to look for story maps and get some inspiration, you can go to ArcGIS.com, which is this page, and then there's a search feature up here on the top, and this one's going to search not just their gallery, but it's going to search all the story maps that are out there. So what you'd want to do is you can put in a little search like story map flooding. And so with that search, I'm going to be searching through all the story maps, looking for any story maps that use the tag flooding. Excuse me. So let's see how quick our internet is here today. Okay, so that search that I just did came up with 708 story maps and web maps that used the tag flooding. So one of the things I wanted to point out, I had mentioned that you want to have a good title, a good description, you want to have good tags, and you want to have a good thumbnail. This is why. So I just did that search, and then it brought up these different pages here. And bring it to another page here. I wanted to find one that didn't have a thumbnail just to show you. These all have, well, so here's one. So this particular one that says the Gympie flood. See, the owner of this one didn't put a thumbnail, so it just shows up with this generic image here. So as people are scrolling through, I think good thumbnails and good images are going to draw people's attention, and then good descriptions are going to bring your eye to those different story maps. But if you don't include a thumbnail, you're going to have this image right here. And then the tags are important too, because as you saw, I did the story map flooding. I could do story map tornado or story map NWS. So those tags that you use are going to help people find your story map. So you'll want to include some good tags and as many as you think that are going to be relevant to your story map. Include those in there so people can find it. Getting started with story maps, Esri on their story map web page, they have lots of information where you can, again, find different samples of story maps. It helps you get started with story maps. They've got some information on learning how to make story maps. They've got principles of effective storytelling. So they've got lots of information on their webpage that can help you get started and help guide you down the path of building story maps. And here's my contact information. So that's all I had. I don't know if Jack wants to take questions now or maybe hold them to the end. But that's all I had for my presentation.
Thank you, Jayme. Let's go ahead and take a few minutes to do some questions.
Hey, this is Nick in Blacksburg. Hey, just out of curiosity, about how long did it take you? I know the El Nino presentation there was pretty in-depth. About how long did it take you to put that together? But definitely more interested in how long it took you to put the storm survey example together.
Yeah, so the more detail you put in them, the longer it's going to take you to do it. The El Nino one, there was myself and one of our interns in the office worked on that one, and I'd say that El Nino one, the bulk of the material probably took us, maybe a week to put that one together. The one I did on the tornado survey, because I was the one I went out and did the field survey and took the pictures and then came back, and I was able to actually build that one in a day. Now, the key is you have to have your images set up. So I was able to just drop them into our network directory. They get synced up to the web server, and then I have now it's a URL that I can access those images. So once you have all that background stuff set up, I mean, these can go together fairly quickly. And then I had that one up, so I put it together in a day, and then I had it up on our web page. 2 days after the tornado, I had it was on our social media. So they can go together really quickly. And one thing I didn't mention that I'm just thinking about now, there is for that story map tour. So that's the one I used for the tornado. There's also a little web app or an app that you can use on your iPhone called Snap to Map. Snap, S-N-A-P, and then the number 2, and then Map, M-A-P, Snap to Map. And that one allows you can actually create a little story map tour just using your iPhone or your iPad. And I've done a 3-slide or a 3-image story map tour just walking around the office taking pictures, and I built it on my phone in 5 minutes. So, and then you also have the ability to put in some text, a little description about each image. So you can actually build those story map tours out in the field too if you wanted, and build them on the fly.
Yeah, this is Jack.
Okay, and then one.
I was going to say, I'll add in too that these story maps are wonderful and that they're pretty out of the box enabled for your mobile devices once they're created. So you can see them on a PC, or you can see them on your mobile device, and they look pretty good by default without additional configuration.
Just a follow-up, if I could. This is JJ. Jayme or Jack or anybody, regarding the question about how long it takes to produce one of these, is it possible to maybe set up some templates where you could have something pretty consistent, and it's just however the information changes, it dynamically updates in the story map? Is that possible?
I'll let Jack take that one. I know he's been working on some templates. And
yeah, we're going to need some assistance, I think, from Esri on that in terms of and able to sort of have a template sitting there that you can populate. And so you can do it with portions of it, certainly the web map that's underlying your story map, but once you go to making an app, which is what a story map is, it's not so simple.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Jayme, this is Mark. I'm wondering if there's a way to make these story maps a little more private. Say if you wanted to use them internally as kind of an HSM.
Yeah. So Mark, there's when you get your ArcGIS Online account, through NOAA, you have the ability as the user level that each one of you has. You can set it so that it's just viewable through the organization. And that's the only people that are going to be able to see it are people that are part of the NOAA ArcGIS Online organization. No one that is not within that group would be able to see it. If you make that, if Jack or myself, if we review it and make that a public URL, if we set it to public, then that URL, if somebody finds it or gets that URL, it's public, it's available to anybody out there. But so we couldn't set it just to an organizational level on the sharing part.
Okay, thanks.
But anybody that wanted to look at that inside NOAA, when it's set to NOAA, they have to have an account.
Correct.
I've got a question with the approval process. If we create a story map, it's put out there on the web, and let's say we've got a significant update to it, does it have to go through, again, an approval process, or is it just kind of on the honor system there?
Well, this kind of goes at an idea I have here that we may get to is how to handle this. But we do want to make templates that are sort of pre-approved so that any relatively small content changes you make within there should be fine. So we can work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Now, what's the time between when the story map is submitted and when it's approved? About how long does that take?
There's 4 people that are admins on there for the Weather Service, and it typically it depends on whether or not they're in town and all that, but it's usually within a day or 2.
Hey, this is Barry in Brownsville. Great talk. Hello? Great talk. I want to follow up or piggyback on that idea. I see the future of this going into like a blog methodology, and I almost could see that admins can be one per office so that you could actually have approval and quick turnaround to broadcast a story map, a quick story like a survey as a breaking news item versus the longer fuse stuff which may take a week to create, and it would be fine to have a higher level admin. So what are your thoughts on the future of having, say, one admin per office who is kind of able to approve it on the fly?
Yeah, Barry, this is Jack. That's exactly what we're thinking about doing. It's a matter of how to set it up. Do we pre-set up accounts that do this? And do we preset population of certain maps? And so that's a logistical item that in an organization item for the material, but it certainly can be doable. I think we could really do a great job with that.
Okay, thanks.
Jack, I have a question about setting up accounts. Does each individual need to go in and set up an account to create a story map, or can we have one like for an office?
Both. You can do either way. A lot of people have office accounts, so it's your choice. And that was, again, one of the ways we could jump out is go ahead and pre-make office accounts, but it takes some thought about what's the best way to do that. But either way, send your submission in.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah.
This is Pam in Kansas City. I know we had chatted, I don't know, it's been a while now, about those pre-approved templates, because we really wanted to use this for damage surveys, but unless you get it out, the next day, everybody doesn't care anymore. Where has that gone? I haven't heard anything come across for a while since we were discussing that.
Well, it's a matter of how much we need to baseline this as a function. But if you have a web map of something you've made or someone else has made, you swapping out the information in that web map, which would be the underpinnings of a story map, would then be live all the time. So again, if we think and if we communicate that, and again, this is just the first dab into this, we could set up templates that each office could have, and then they can just maintain them. And so they could have, as soon as they get the information and update their web map, it would be out there through that interface.
Okay.
If you all don't mind, I was going to move on with the rest of our material here, and we can follow up down the road. We're most likely going to have another session. I screwed up and used the wrong webinar, so it only took 101 people. So about 30-some people were shut out, and I apologize for that. They may be on the phone here but not seeing the webinar. So we can repeat this. There will be a recording of us all. But let's move into this other session here, and we can go longer, I think, unless by chance it cuts us off. But I wanted to show, I'm going to move the mic here, and show a few more visuals here, sort of different entry points as well. They may be, and they probably are, most definitely surpassed by what Jayme has shown in terms of the richer experience you get with a story map, but I wanted to walk through them anyway. One of them is simply the underlying web maps that you use. And again, this will all be linked. So this is what a web map looks like, and you'll experience this if you haven't already when you have an account. So you have a map, and in this case I'm feeding it with some underlying comma-separated value data. And inside that file is simply a bunch of attribute information. Real simple, real light. And I pass this through up to the web servers that we have here using a network link that automatically rsyncs to the web. And most of our offices have some function like this to feed our web pages. And so this file sits out there, and it's displayed, and it's displaying CF6 information, climatic daily mean values that are coming from your office's CF6 product. And so it's displaying, in this case, precipitation anomalies for the current month for February. So you can see how wet it's been over in the South Carolina area and how dry it's been anomalously in February so far for the northern portions of California. So that's a web map. So, and here's another one that has the temperature anomalies for February so far. We're only 10 days in. And this is all going to change in the Northeast here with the colder air. But my point is, even just simply using a web map, there's a mode when you look at a web map up here in the top right. If I were logged in, and I'll show you this here shortly, there is a edit presentation or a make presentation button that will reveal itself. And you can go ahead and make a presentation that walks through your web map and turns on and off layers, and it has titling. And so you can see this is what it would produce here. And if I hit reload on this page, you'll see that each slide that I've created, they're basically like it's a presentation like a PowerPoint, has a title, and it changes here at a certain increment, in this case every 5 seconds. And then you can change the zoom and if any pop-ups you want to show or any of the layers you want to show in your map. And so this one's taking a look back at January and the anomalous rainfall that we had in January across Florida and also California, and then highlighting certain stations. So this is just one example. Again, this can also be created in inside of a story map, but you can do something very similar just using a web map, which is really light as a sort of a way of getting in there and starting off with something small. So I wanted to show that to you as an example. Another one is looking at a different map here. This is showing a number of layers that this one does not loop. And so it's showing you rainfall with water year to date, 3 slides of that, 3 slides of the rainfall anomaly. You know, colorizing the dots by the rainfall anomaly, so we can see since October 1st we've had an extremely wet experience here in North Texas, down in Corsicana, where they've had over 22 inches of rainfall above and beyond of what they normally do during this water year, which starts on October 1st. So you can display information that way. So you can have people walk through this. And the other wonderful thing here is that each of these slides, when you have them, this one has 12 slides. Each slide has its own URL simply by adding the right information on the end of this. And it'll go right to that slide number. And so you can use this, and you can share this in your social media links to a map that you have configured to convey whatever information you want to convey on a regular basis. And so you can regularly communicate this and change the information underneath as you wish, or it can be fed by information that changes on its own, as is the case here. So there's different ways. This is extremely powerful because once you have your web map approved and it's linked and open, then it's a great conduit to communicate through. And then you can embed, and Jayme showed some of this before, you can embed links to URLs within your pop-ups or other material. In this case, I'm pointing at Austin, and I happen to link back to an El Nino tracking website here that's set up to show you the Haywood plot for Austin, which is comparing the normal rainfall with different El Nino year rainfall. So you can see where you are on the chart. And so that's another powerful feature is embedding those URLs within your simple CSV data in this case. So the next thing I wanted to cover was ArcGIS Online Assistant is what's shown on the page here. And you can log in here, and all of your material shows up on the left-hand side. Let me show my content here and get rid of this search. So all my folders in my ArcGIS Online account are shown here and how I've organized them. And you can search through here to find something, and what this allows you to do is this is known as the Swiss Army knife. It allows you to go in here to either see your content or edit it. In this case, I want to just simply search for that. And so I've got a web map that I set up, and let me show you what the web map looks like. It's this. It's called New Anomaly, December 25th. And what this map was showing was all the warm temperatures across the east that we had at the end of December. So you can walk through this map and turn on different days and look at how many record lows were set. All these number ones are rank of number one means a record was set for those locations. So we had tons of those days. There's Christmas Eve here, Christmas morning, lots of records set across. So that was the point of this web map, is to have all that information in there. And I said, well, that's great. I'm looking back at a past event in an anomalously warm week. I want to make that into something that has some live data to it. So what I wanted to do was go to ArcGIS Online, and you can do this relatively simply, is I can do the update URLs for services in a map by clicking on my map. And so here's all the links to the underlying CSV data that I have feeding that map that I just showed you. And it's in reverse date order here. So you've got the whole month anomalies down here at the bottom, and then you walk up through the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, all the different days in that map. But I want to change these because maybe I've got new information for January now. Or what I did here was to point to new data that I have that has information per day of minimum temperatures that is on a rolling 7-day period. So I've made new CSV files, and I think I show them here on the back end of this web map. And you can see the links. You probably can't see them, but there's one that says min 1 day ago, min 2 days ago, min 3 days ago. So using ArcGIS Online Assistant, I can quickly change these values to that new URL string of that new data, hit save, and this map that I have has been updated with new URLs, and so it would show that new information. And in a perfect world, you would make a copy of this first and then alter your copy. And that's how you can proliferate information based on a prior example of something successful you created. In this case, a very basic web map, but one that has a lot of information in it. And so the resultant map, if I didn't delete it here, is this is what we're looking at. The min temperatures 2 days ago. There were some near record values out there in Southern California. You can click on them to see the data in here. So very warm, anomalous lows that happened back in that. So this map is now ready to go and can loop through that information in a map, much like this one can. And I believe I can show you an example of how that can be looped. So that's sort of a light cut into what ArcGIS Online, the ArcGIS Online Assistant can do for you. The other option in here is to view the JSON and the JSON is the underlying guts of what these story maps are built on. It's very perhaps disturbing to look at. It's obviously computer code, but it is relatively simple, and it's human readable here. And so you can use this option to go into to see what's behind one of your, whether it's a web map or it's a story map, and you can make slight alterations to alter how you're displaying content, whether you've got things classified by different value ranges, or whether you want to go in here and change one of these links right in here. You can do the same thing. It's a different method of updating what's in your it's a configuration file basically for your web map. So it's another powerful way, once you take a look at it, of how you can quickly sort of proliferate information and make edits, and we can grow capacity across the Weather Service in terms of making use of this technology. So I wanted to just skim in there very lightly to show you what some of the tools that are out there that we can use. And then the last thing I wanted to show, this goes back to some of the discussions and questions we had earlier, is just an example of again a web map journal, or sorry, a story map journal like Jayme had described of how it can be created. But what you can do in these journals, obviously, whether you have buttons here on the right or whether you have buttons with numbers across the top, there's different configuration choices. But you can embed obviously nested information in here. So what I've done in this example, just as an example of grabbing a number of different story maps out there across the Weather Service to share with you of how this information can be displayed. So here's the opening screen for better or for worse, showing the temperature anomalies for February so far this month. Here's one where I've sort of dumped a number of my examples in here about a look at different, whether they be presentation mode. Here's that one that's going to walk through slides. And you can bury that in here, and you can point your users straight to this interface or to this particular tab or this particular web map. So you can see how that we can create content, and then as you work on the back end of what's behind these web maps or story maps, you can have live content that's there at the ready. And here's an example of those of these last 7 days of min temperatures once it loads up. And this simply walks through again the last 7 days over time and whether or not there was any record lows in those last couple days. So back on the 9th there was a record low up there in Montana. So there's a ton of content you can have in these embedded story maps, and this is where we'll have to have the future discussions about how to organize our activity. You could imagine each of these tabs, whether inside of this map series or whether down the right hand side, is a portal, so to speak, for each forecast office, each national center. Any entity in the Weather Service and NOAA could have an opening point here. And so this simply points to Jayme's El Nino story map, and then he can govern whatever is within there for his particular office and have that as a conduit. Similarly, the Florida office in Tampa created their story map on El Nino. A lot of the same content, a lot of opportunities to share the underlying material, but they have an opening here to put content out there through their office. Ditto for St. Louis. They've got other examples here. This is describing their flooding from back in late December. And then FEMA has adopted this technology as well to put together a journal of things that they commonly look at to support their operations. So you can see several of our partners that we deal with on a regular basis in our IDSS world and Weather Ready Nation efforts are using this technology as well. And then there's, again, I could go on and on. There's tons of examples, and this is open to you to check out. It's kind of a demo place. It's not anywhere near as documented as well as it should be if this was a formal offering, but it's a conduit to share with you what these examples could be and how you could use them in your office. So that's really how I wanted to close out with what we have here and how you can point to different information. Lastly, all the content that we used here today was put into a story map, into a Google Drive space here. Our agenda is on top. And we thought that one way to possibly grow is to have a frequently asked questions area where you could go ahead in and take a look at and post your questions that you might have had. Someone has already posted it, of questions you had on today's webinar that we can follow up on and try to build some organization of how to communicate and grow capacity. And so that's there for you to use. And hopefully if you don't have those links, we can get them to you. Similarly, there are other entities in NOAA. The Office of Coast Management, OCM, has put out a standard operating procedure of how to go ahead and run a story map up through their decision tree, as Jayme described earlier, in terms of approval processes, best practices, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, etc. So I put in copies of that into our workspace here, and ideally we can have a subset of folks that can help maintain and grow that. And similarly, best practices is another document that other entities have put together that we can build and grow upon. So really that's all I had. We can take questions. It's at the bottom of the hour that we had. And I apologize again for cutting off at least 30-some people out there, but this recording will be made available if you don't have a link to it. In fact, I'll probably, size-wise, I'll put it in here. So thank you for attending. Both Jayme and I thank you, and we can do this again at any time down the road. If anybody wants to stay on for questions, we can do that for a little while. Thank you all.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Going to be sending out an email to the attendees with these links?
I can do that. If you don't get one, depending on how you heard about this, do you have my email or Jayme's?
I went through the registration process, the usual one.
Okay. Yeah, what's your name?
One, I can give you mine. It's just ron.murphy@noaa.gov.
Okay. All right, Ron, I'll make sure I get you that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll probably put something out on the forum for those that weren't on the calendar invite. They can just get the material from the forum.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack can forward it along in other regions as well.
Yeah.
No problem doing
Yep.
that.
Yeah, I'll forward it to the whole group there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other?
Frank Bell, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, sure, Frank.
This is a very open-ended question. What have you looked at with the possibility of using this for mobile applications?
Well, yeah, there's templates for configuring mobile applications in the universe there of what Esri has. And again, a lot of these work pretty nicely on your mobile device, but they have templates that are designed specifically for very specific devices. So that there's a conduit there that you can already explore once you get an account and get on there. And it's simply like Jayme was showing, you click on one of the tabs that says, I want to make an app. And then you get a choice of what kind of device do you want to make an app for, and how do you want it to lay out, and it's pretty straightforward. So yeah, I can work with you, Frank, or however you need guidance.
Well, we were just wondering, about because of our current restrictions on developing mobile apps, if this is a way to bridge that gap, maybe, and also wondering if there are any examples out there that you could point us to.
I don't at the ready right now, but maybe someone else on the line does. We've had some Esri folks that were joining us. We can find you some. But you're right. There's rules of the road that we need to adhere to, and obviously there's boundaries that we cannot cross. But certainly the potential is there to do things, which is why there are rules of the road. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Adam down in Key West. So just a quick question. Is there a plan to, with the weather service, to implement more than just the story maps? Is there anything else coming up at the Federal GIS Conference down the road? Is there a presentation that you're going to do in more detail? I found this very informative. I just was wondering if there's another presentation that is coming about any future developments on the story map idea.
Yeah, it's constantly evolving, and I can't speak for what Esri is going to have. There is presentations. There's going to be a ton of them at the Fed user conference there in February in DC. I try my best to keep up with what they have, but yeah, we just have to keep in touch there. Does anybody else want to take that?
Hey, Jack, this is Jeff Dodley.
Yes, Jeff.
From Esri. Yeah, there are a couple of sessions that the Storymaps team, and I'm not sure if Rupert is still on from our Storymaps team, but there are a couple of sort of instructional sessions at the Federal GIS Conference. One of them actually includes your environmental visualization group presenting on some work that they've done with their communications office, and some work they've done, which we typically like to show some examples. But we'd also be very, pleased to do specific, sort of, like a 1 hour type of test or how-to, if you'd like, for the weather service. Just let us know, and we'd be happy to set something up.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, it's there's a lot of good information online to check out as well. So please peruse the numerous links we have. One thing I didn't show was at the bottom of our agenda. Esri just gave a great story map presentation last Friday that I put the information here with a number of links, number of examples. That there's plenty of follow-up material there too. But yeah, we need to have more of these kind of informational sharing sessions about what is possible.
Right. I guess adding to what your question from Key West was, where the future directions are, we'd be, again, in that sort of presentation, be happy to talk about some things we're working on or ideas you might have that we could also consider.
Well, great, Jeff.
Jack,
Thanks, Jack.
Jack, this is Rupert from the Esri Storymaps team.
Yes, Rupert.
Very good presentation. Jayme did a great job. That was very impressive. Just wanted to go back to a couple of things. One was a question about are there templates available to make it easier to make story maps? And definitely keep in touch with us about your requirements for that, because that's something we're actively looking at with story maps. We're looking at patterns by which we can make it easier for people to create them. Because there's some story maps where you want to do editorial editing, where you're writing text. But there's also some story maps where you just want to pour data and maps into a prepared template. So we're still trying to gather information from the user base, what sort of templatization will work best for them. So have a think about that, because it's something we're definitely interested in doing. For example, we could enable people to set up a group in ArcGIS Online, put web maps in there, and then we could automatically generate a story map from all the web maps in that group and display all the descriptive text next to the map. So things like that, we're very interested in learning what good patterns would be.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I think that would be wonderful, and I'm sure the folks on this webinar will have plenty of ideas. So we'll have to follow up with another session.
Thanks for that, Rupert. Me and Jack, we should follow up with you and continue to move that idea and effort forward.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack, this is Jan in Seattle. I have a relatively easy question. When you built your applications, did you do any download of the web app builder and host it locally, or is this all done from AGOL?
I've explored both, where I've downloaded it to go ahead and make the additional tweaks that maybe I wanted to do, some of the default settings that weren't there. But most of the time, it takes effort to do that, and I don't have the time to go into the entire universe of it all. But I have tried both.
Because, I mean, what I'm running into is we're in the ocean, and I was on the tab story map, and when you hit the pop-up, you configure the pop-up. I couldn't figure out any way to get rid of get directions. They have zoom to area on the bottom of the pop-up window and get directions. Well, the get directions is irrelevant for the ocean, and I couldn't figure out how to remove that.
Well, I know there's bookmarks. I'm not sure if they pass through. But... Sorry, go ahead.
It's Jeff. I was just suggesting to Jan's question, maybe Rupert has a comment.
Yeah, it's a very good point. On some of the maps or apps you can embed in story maps, you might see get directions, and it's a good point. I've made a note of that. It's not there. If you make a web map in ArcGIS Online and include it in a story map, you won't see that in the pop-up because we do hide it, but you might see that in other apps or pages that you embed inside a story map. That is a good point.
So I just I made a tab story map, and I used two different ref services off my ArcGIS server, and then made the master map using those services. So they had 3 tabs, one with everything and one for each one. And when I configure the pop-up, which is just telling what labels and images and that type of stuff you want to pop up, when it pops up, no matter what, I get, the 2 comments on the bottom, zoom to area and get directions. And I couldn't figure out how to remove get directions. Is that a technical support question?
Well, you go 10 nautical miles east, and then you take a right at Georges Bank, right?
Yeah, via boat. The second question I had is I was thinking about the web app builder, and to get to the code, you have to make it public, and I was kind of in a dilemma because I wasn't ready to make my application public because I'm developing it, but to get to the code, I couldn't figure out how to get to the code without making it public. So I thought maybe I was missing something there.
Yeah, for the first thing about the driving directions, is it possible to get a link to Jayme or Jack that they could share with me to see that? Because
do you have it on your screen, Jan?
What?
Do you have it on your screen and I give you control?
Hold on, I might. Let me just see if I've got. I killed it, but I could put it up on my screen.
Well, you can send it offline. I'd just be interested in seeing that because you shouldn't be seeing the driving directions inside a sort of vanilla story map, but you might see it depending on how you've embedded maps in there. But I would be interested to see that either way because you should be able to.
Except, shoot, you know what I did was that I killed my. I guess I could log back on. I killed my.
But maybe we can have you send if you want to send me a note, and I can copy in Rupert so we can kind of take this follow up on this.
Yeah, I mean, is there a way for me to be able to share this with you so that you can see what I've already put up? Because the other part I've got to do is, because it's coming off of my server, I've got to make you a user or give you somehow. I guess I need to do a screen share. That's the bottom line.
I think if you send it to the link to me, we can get Rupert online with you.
Okay.
Also, the thing with the code download is that this is all cloud-based mapping and app creation. You don't need to download the code for one of the apps and host it yourself unless you've got a specific major tweak you want to do to the look or the functionality. Or if you, for example, some people do a code download because they want the web domain to be on their own website. For example, a commercial company might want its story map not to have ArcGIS.com in its domain. But in general, you shouldn't have to worry about downloading anything. But then you might be a developer who wants to change the code. But I wanted to make that clearer that when you said you were downloading some of the code, I wanted to check if you really need to do that.
Part of there was two reasons for wanting to download. The one reason was that I was dealing with having the directions on the bottom that I was trying to avoid. And so then I was thinking that I might have more control doing that. The other thing is that I had been able to, in the past, we had done one before and we downloaded the code, and what that gave us was the ability to stick in our logos where we wanted to make the font match our web pages. And so it just gave more control.
Yeah, that is the sort of thing where you would do a download. Perhaps we could do a follow-up about that or do a separate call related to any issues with that, because I would like to help with that.
Yeah, and related.
I don't want to take up too much time. What do you want to wrap up?
Related to that, Rupert, too, I know one of the main reasons, we're apparently not allowed to point to .com, so pointing to your cloud space, it would be nice if I can build something there and then immediately download it and just host it on one of our .gov links. And I don't know how easy it would be to pull it out, so to speak, once it's been fully touched up in your space.
It seems like if it's in our space, then it should be easy to link to it, because it's all public and stuff.
Yeah, we can follow up on that again. It's just can we point to our own NOAA Geo platform from our web pages? It always comes up in the Weather Service, and some say yes, some say no.
Well, if you need us to help you dig into it at all, I imagine you're talking to Randy and all those folks related to the administration of the Geo platform, right?
Yeah, at times, but once you get into this story map area, it's like I want to make a link and I want to embed things, and then it becomes other parts of NOAA can do it. We necessarily sometimes can't, so there's nuances there. But I know your number.
Okay.
Any other questions for any folks out there?
Yeah, hi, this is
Will anybody be at the GIS conference? Is the federal conference? I plan on being at that on my own time. I'm just curious if anybody's going to be there.
There's a number of NOAA folks that will be there in D.C.
Okay, good. Sounds good.
Yeah. Who's that speaking? I can get you.
There's also a Storymaps booth at the Fed GIS conference.
Rupert, are you?
About the Snap-to-Map app, sorry. I tried to go and I downloaded the Snap-to-Map app, and
I tried to log in, and I have access to the online, I have access through NOAA. So when I logged in, it said that I had to have admin or publisher rights before I could use the Snap to Map. Do you guys know anything about that?
That's correct, yeah. Snap to Map's it's not a fully supported official app. It was sort of a proof of concept that was created, but it does require that as an ArcGIS Online user, you've got permissions on your account to be able to publish services, because when you take, it uses a service for the images that you take with to host the images that you take with your phone.
So we can give you, through NOAA, we can give you publisher rights. We can't make you an admin. So if it's just publisher, what's your name, and I can make sure your account can do that, so you can try it out.
Oh, that would be great. My name is Brittany Whitehead.
Okay, Brittany. And the account's under your name?
Very much. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make you a publisher and see if that helps it out.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, that'll know that you need that right on Snap to Map. I didn't realize that because I'm an admin, so I didn't realize I had extra rights there.
All righty, we ready to close this out? And I'm thinking we need to do this again, maybe in 2 weeks.
Jack.
Yeah.
Jack, this is Paul McKee at Westgulf.
Yes,
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Some discussions that we've had over the months really has to do with trying to rework the E19, so to speak, something that we've kind of been calling graphical E19. And the Storymap seems to have maybe the perfect application for looking at that, taking a look at how we can better bring the E19 information into into the public realm. Do you know of anybody that has taken a look at that at all?
I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff does through their hydro folks. That you have to describe what the E19 is exactly, but I wouldn't be surprised that they've combed through that data already.
I'm sorry. The E19 in the hydro world is essentially just the complete informational document that kind of tries to tie impacts to river flood forecasts in terms of what are the impacts going to be at associated levels within the river at a particular location. So
this is Jayme. I haven't put the E19 information in there, but what I have done is all of our river forecast points for the Los Angeles and the San Diego office, I put together a Storymap tour where I have them. I have a picture of the gauge itself and an upstream and a downstream shot. And then I could essentially take that Storymap and add in some more of that information from the E19 and turn it into a graphical E19. So I think it's certainly doable. We would just need to get some support and some traction on it.
Okay. That may be something we'll talk more here in the office, but something I think we'd like to explore. And maybe even within, there may be even regional support to do that as a pilot or something. I think it'd be a neat thing to do. Chris Landers here was also mentioning, I guess, an Esri application that could be used. I think maybe it's called Collector, where then it would allow, say, the service hydrologist out in the field, or anyone for that matter out in the field, to take pictures, and they're georeferenced, and be able to push them up to a story map essentially, or an ArcGIS Online map that's published.
This is Jayme. I have Collector on my phone as well as the Snap to Map. Jack and I, after the Esri conference in San Diego last July, we were playing around with Collector. While we were at the conference, and then after the conference, we were giving it a test and taking pictures and actually adding some text in there and uploading them, and we were having some success. So I think that's definitely an avenue we should explore.
Extremely valuable to be able to do that across our area.
Yeah, Paul, I was just pulling up those CSVs, but yeah, for these other sites, but I guess it doesn't flow out of all offices. Whether or not displaying that is what Jayme already does, or anyway, I'm sure it's doable.
Okay. The other thing is, I was wondering, just as you guys were talking here, some ideas, but is it relatively easy in the web environment that we have currently within the Weather Service to ultimately kind of link a story map? So, for example, we have something that we call a graphical hydromet discussion. It goes out every day, and we need to rework that. But this lends itself to that as well. As long as there'd be a way we could, link it into the web. Is that something that's just a matter of, one link, or?
Well, I think you would simply put whether you link to these graphics that you got here, and you update the text on there per day, and it just lives in the story map. It should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Okay.
The problem is it can't just live in the story map. I'm
right.
sorry, this is Brian Marinsky.
Yeah, it lives here as well, and you can link it.
So it's kind of a question of duplication of effort and what's worthy of having on the story map and what's worthy of using our websites for.
Okay. So
information.
Policy-wise, anything in a story map must also be available on the web, public-facing?
It depends on the content. If it's content that is available elsewhere, then that's okay. But if it's content like your hydrometeorological discussion that needs to also be somewhere on our web pages that people can access and not just in the story map.
Okay. Okay.
Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I understand.
Yeah, and I haven't run into too much that's not available out there already on our websites or on a server or somewhere, so depending on how you read that. Anything else from anybody? Well, I appreciate you all for being here and hanging on longer and doing some more questions. Like I said, let's follow up and do another one in a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, take care, all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. This is great.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jayme.
Thank you.
Jerry, how's it going?